Hello and welcome to a bonus episode of the Days of Roar podcast. I'm Evan Petzold, the Detroit Tigers beat writer for the Detroit Free Press, and I'm joined, as always, by Mark Gorash. Opening day for the Tigers is 7:10 p.m. Thursday, March 27th against the Los Angeles Dodgers at Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles. The Tigers have set their 26-man opening day roster for the 2025 season. Here are the 26 players that made the team. Catchers Dylan Dingler, Jake Rogers. Infielders Javier Baez, Andy Ibanez, Colt Keith, Zach McKinstry, Trey Sweeney, Spencer Torkelson, Gleyber Torres. Outfielders Kerry Carpenter, Riley Green, Ryan Kreidler, and Manuel Margot. Starting pitchers Jack Flaherty, Jackson Jobe, Casey Mize, Reese Olson, Tarek Skubal. Relief pitchers John Brebbia, Bo Brisky, Brennan Hanafy, Tyler Holton, Brant Herter, Tommy Canley, Kenta Maeda, Will Vest. Now, a lot changed Monday, just 2 days before opening day, when Wenceel Pérez was ruled out for 1 month with a lower back injury. He was supposed to be the number one center fielder on the opening day roster, but he injured his back earlier in spring training, and then he injured it again in his final game on Sunday. Just like that, the Tigers were down 3 center fielders. Parker Meadows, the everyday center fielder, he's out with an upper arm nerve issue. Matt Vierling, the backup center fielder, he's out with a shoulder strain. And Perez, the third string center fielder, is out with lower back inflammation. So the Tigers, they brought Ryan Kreidler back. Remember, he was optioned to AAA Toledo on Saturday, but by Monday, he was with the team in San Francisco for their 2 exhibition games against the Giants. And now he's going to be the Tigers' primary center fielder entering the regular season. Notable roster decisions, those have been made. Position players Ryan Kreidler and Spencer Torkelson made the opening day roster, with Justyn-Henry Malloy optioned to AAA Toledo and Jahmai Jones sent to AAA Toledo. Pitchers Brennan Hanafy and Brant Herter made the opening day roster, with Jason Foley optioned to AAA Toledo and Andrew Chafin sent to AAA Toledo. My last important note, the Tigers signed 9-year MLB veteran outfielder Ben Gamel to a minor league contract, but he has been assigned to AAA Toledo. For now, he is just corner outfield depth in AAA in case there's another injury. I know I just threw a lot at everybody, but I think the most important topic here is the center field position. Scott Harris, the president of baseball operations, said Ryan Kreidler is going to play a lot of center field for the Tigers. So Mark, let's start right there. What do you think about Ryan Kreidler as the primary center fielder going into the 2025 season?
I think he's one of the best fifth-string center fielders in Major League Baseball. And if you don't understand what I'm saying to you and you're upset by that idea, then you got to understand he's the fifth-string center fielder for the Detroit Tigers. Riley Green is the fourth string. And if this was a different time of year, and we're going to get into that later, he would be the center fielder. But, you know, I think AJ Hinch has told you many, many, many times, both publicly and privately, he does not want Riley Green playing center field, at least not right now. So Ryan Kreidler is the fifth string center fielder for the Detroit Tigers. Ryan Kreidler, who hit 147, 212, 193 in a slash line last year, who is maybe one of the worst hitters in the Tiger organization. However, who has had over 100 WRC plus throughout his minor league career. He just never seems to hit in the major leagues. Does have a decent walk rate. Is not super fast. Doesn't have a super great arm. And he's the center fielder for now. So my answer is, it's not great, Ev. Come on, dude. Ryan Kreidler is playing center field. Who had that on the dance card when they opened spring training in February?
Nobody saw that coming. The Tigers didn't even see that coming a couple of days ago when they sent Ryan Kreidler to AAA Toledo, and then suddenly he's back with the team, and now here he is. Like, it's crazy the way things have unfolded. And to your point, yeah, the Tigers don't want to play Riley Green in center field on an everyday basis. He will play there some, but yeah, Ryan Kreidler is going to be the primary center fielder for the Tigers as they start the 2025 season. Now, when does that change? We don't really know, because Parker Meadows, remember, this guy is the everyday center fielder. He is the leadoff hitter against right-handed pitchers. Parker Meadows, though, is going to miss the first 54 games while on the 60-day injured list because he's not eligible to return until May 26th at the very earliest. Meanwhile, you have Wenceel Pérez. He's going to miss at least 1 month. So that sidelines him until late April at the very earliest. And then you have Matt Vierling. We don't know when he's coming back. Like, Matt Vierling is down. He also plays third base, so he would have been able to help out there too. But, he's the backup center fielder, and he's expected to return at some point before Meadows, but possibly not until after Wenceel Pérez. So we're looking at maybe somewhere between like late April and late May for a Matt Vierling return. Like, it's going to be a minute before the Tigers get some help here in center field. And that's what I think is a little bit concerning, is just the fact that you have to turn to Ryan Kreidler and you have to turn to him for as long as you have to. I mean, we're looking at a month of Ryan Kreidler in center field, unless something changes, but Parker Meadows is not coming back anytime soon. Matt Vierling is not coming back anytime soon, and Wenceel Pérez not coming back anytime soon. So you're kind of stuck with Ryan Kreidler at this point, and that's how the Tigers are going to have to go about it. The other big piece of news, Mark, was Spencer Torkelson making the opening day roster. How do you feel about Tork? Obviously, it's a huge bounce back opportunity for him. He's going to be DHing on Thursday against Dodgers left-hander Blake Snell on opening day. Spencer Torkelson is back. Let the comeback season begin. What are your thoughts on Torkelson making the opening day roster?
Well, I think that as a philosophy, Hinch and Harris have decided, Tork, Kreidler, shortstop, there's going to be a little bit of prove it to me in the month of April. They need to get answers to certain questions, get them out of the way, because they know what the answers are if those questions aren't answered. In other words, J-Hen, he could be up in 10 days, 2 weeks. I mean, if they need another bat or things change or they acquire a different center fielder that can play more often instead of Kreidler, but they know what they have in J-Hen. And, I think I said to you, I would wager that J-Hen gets 400 at bats in the major leagues this year. So I'm not too worried about that. But, the Tigers need to find out if Spencer Torkelson is 2023 Tork or this was a mirage of spring training.
You're 100% correct, but we got to give credit to Spencer Torkelson because he earned his role on the opening day roster. This is a guy who came into spring training and he did not have a position. The Tigers went out and signed Gleyber Torres to play second base. They moved Colt Keith to first base, and that left Spencer Torkelson on the outside looking in, coming into spring training. But he earned his way onto the opening day roster. He hit .340 with 5 home runs, 4 walks, and 11 strikeouts across 19 games in spring training. That was across 55 plate appearances. He played exclusively at first base on defense, pretty much exclusively, because only 6 innings in right field. He was going to be primarily DH, a little bit of first base sprinkled in there, and then if there's an in-game situation that requires him to play right field, the Tigers will give him a couple opportunities there, but that's not going to be a position that he starts at. We're going to see a lot of Spencer Torkelson at DH and some Spencer Torkelson at first base. I just think it's really fascinating. This is a guy who has now gone from being on the outside looking in to now he's going to be starting a designated hitter against Los Angeles Dodgers left-hander Blake Snell in Thursday's opening day game. Give the credit to him. Like, I came on the podcast on our most recent episode and I talked about how Justyn-Henry Malloy is the guy that I would have chosen over Spencer Torkelson. And that's just where I was at. And Spencer Torkelson, though, he proved it. The Tigers went a different direction. They decided to go with Torkelson, and it's a real opportunity for him now to bounce back. We can't forget that he has to show this in the regular season, but even just beyond the box score numbers in spring training, we saw some things that were really, really good signs. Like, he was athletic in the batter's box. He found his timing on fastballs. He was making hard contact. He stayed committed to this new approach he has of hitting balls over the second baseman's head. So he makes all those subtle adjustments, and then you see he turns it into a .340 batting average with 5 home runs in 19 games, and it reminds you of the Spencer Torkelson who hit 31 home runs in 2023. So we'll see what Torkelson can be. I like that the Tigers are giving him an opportunity, and we got to tip the cap to him because he definitely earned it. As for Justyn-Henry Malloy not making the team, Mark, what are your thoughts there? Like, obviously, this is a guy who has shown that he can be a hitter. He hit in the postseason last year, and he especially thrives against left-handed pitching. Do you think the Tigers are going to miss not having J-Hen on the roster, especially when you consider that it seemed like it came down to, do you want J-Hen or do you want Ryan Kreidler? It maybe seemed to be a little bit less about Spencer Torkelson in the conversations that the media had with Scott Harris. It seemed to be more like the Tigers were weighing the decision of, do we want the bat in Justyn-Henry Malloy or do we want the defense in Ryan Kreidler? The Tigers picked the defense in Ryan Kreidler because they feel like he can help protect their greatest asset, and they believe their greatest asset is pitching. So they think outfield defense, maybe that can help. That's why they went with Ryan Kreidler. But do you think they're going to regret not putting Justyn-Henry Malloy on the roster? Because you got to score runs to win games. You just do. That's how baseball works. What are your thoughts on that, Mark?
I'm not too worried about it. Do I think that J-Hen can rake? Absolutely. And I think I just said, I figure he'll get 400 at-bats in the major leagues this year. At the same time, here's a roster that you're looking to win 85 plus games, make the playoffs, and go far. And I don't want to get too alarmed about this, but you're starting the month of April with the following players on the roster: Javi Baez, Trey Sweeney, Zach McKinstry, Ryan Kreidler, Manuel Margot. Those are 5 players that legitimately would not make the team of numerous teams in the major leagues, even some that aren't very good. So you have shortstop, third base, and center field, where you have, essentially platoons where you're going to have very, very weak offense, less than, maybe a 80 WRC plus, which is 20% below major league average. There's going to be some nights they're going to be struggling to score runs. I mean, if Carp, Green do not hit, and Torque and Keith do not hit, especially Gleyber Torres also, they're really in trouble here, dude. I mean, it's beautiful to play defense, but at the same time, you have Gleyber Torres and the third base platoon, and you got Scott talking to me about defense. It's like, come on, dude. Come on. You got Ryan Kreidler playing center field, and you want to tell me what a good defender he is? How do we know? He's played 3 innings in center field in his major league career, as told to me by beat writer Evan Petzold. So do we really know? Is defense really good? We got Colt Keith at first and Gleyber Torres at second, which could be the 30th ranked right side of the infield in Major League Baseball. So it's kind of hypocritical to start touting defense as the reason you take Ryan Kreidler. I'm just curious. Talk to me about that. I'm not so worried about Jahan not being here, adding to the offense, but what the heck is going on?
I mean, you don't have Parker Meadows, you don't have Matt Vierling, you don't have Wenceel Pérez. Like, what do you expect?
It doesn't change the fact that defensively on the right side of the field, they're an unknown.
No, it's a problem. It's a problem across the board. When you really look at it, like you have a plus left fielder and everything else seemingly is pretty below average. I mean, shortstop, maybe, because you got Javi Baez there and you got Trey Sweeney. Those guys are adequate shortstops. You got a good catching duo in Jake Rogers and Dylan Dingler. But aside from catcher, shortstop, left field, what can you really be confident in defensively? And if that's the main goal, is to protect the pitching staff by having elite defense, they haven't done a good job of that, because look around the diamond, look at what they have. So definitely reasons to be concerned. I mean, even at third base, Zach McKinstry and Andy Ibanez, that platoon there, like that's not something to be excited about defensively. Like there are reasons to be concerned there as well. So again, not a lot of good signs when it comes to the defense, and the fact that that is what is being praised is like, hey, we need to have this really good defense to back up the pitching staff. I don't know if the Tigers really did a good job of assembling a good defense on the field, either in the outfield or in the infield. Now, some of that out of their control because of the fact that there are these, injuries that have happened. But even coming into spring training, we said, wow, this infield defense could be really poor. And so, that has kind of always been a concern. Now it's just you take it a step further, and the outfield defense is a concern as well.
Okay, so let's move on a little bit to the pitching staff. Some guys that we thought were going to make the team did not. Some guys that will be on the team sooner than later got sent to Toledo. But discuss the philosophy and the reasons why you think, Brant Herter and Kenta Maeda are on the team, and Jason Foley and Andrew Chafin are not.
Well, Kenta Maeda was always on the team. Kenta Maeda wasn't going anywhere. But the moves that were made that were significant was, Brennan Hanafy and Brant Herter making the team, Jason Foley and Andrew Chafin going to AAA Toledo. And when you look up and down at what the Tigers have, it's like, okay, like Jason Foley was the closer in 2024. You would expect him to be back in a high leverage role in 2025. And that was really the big surprise, I feel like, of the roster moves. Like you could have seen Torkelson and Justyn-Henry Malloy. That could have gone either way. Ryan Kreidler, the writing was kind of on the wall when they brought him out to San Francisco to play center field in that first exhibition game. You kind of saw that one coming. The Jason Foley one was a little bit of a surprise just because of the fact that this guy's under contract for $3.15 million, right? He was in his first year of salary arbitration. He was the closer for almost the entire 2024 season. And now he's going to AAA Toledo, and Brendan Hanafy is making the opening day roster. Now, Hanafy pitched his way onto the team, no doubt about it. It was 10 2/3 scoreless innings with 3 walks, 9 strikeouts in 9 games during spring training. He also was a really big contributor down the stretch for the Tigers in 2024 with a 1.84 ERA in 29 1/3 innings. That was in 21 games. So Hanafy's done everything he's needed to do to prove that he should be on this roster, whereas Foley, not so much. He struggled in spring training. Yes, 0 walks, 10 strikeouts. That was a good sign, but he did get hit around. I'm fascinated to see what he works on in AAA Toledo when you look at the fact that, okay, yes, he racked up 28 saves and 32 chances last year. He can be that guy. He did lose the closer role in the postseason, but he struggles against left-handed hitters sometimes. He also doesn't get a bunch of swing and misses. And at the same time, the biggest thing that, really concerned me when you look back at what last season was the ground ball rate. It plummeted. He went from like 56, 57% in 2023 down to 47, 48% in 2024. So the ground ball rate went down, still not missing a ton of bats, and then struggles against left-handed hitters. I think the Tigers want him to work on some things. Now, AJ Hinch wasn't very specific in terms of what they exactly want him to work on, but I will be fascinated to see what he looks like when he gets down there to AAA Toledo. And then, hat tip to Brendan Hanafy. The big question now with the Tigers is going to be, okay, who's going to close games? Because Foley's not on the roster anymore. And I think you have several guys that are high leverage relievers who can fill in. Tommy Canley, Bo Brisky, Will Vest, Tyler Holton. None of those guys are experienced closers, but the Tigers have multiple different paths to win. I don't think they're going to have one exact closer. AJ Hinch talked about it, and he said the things that he really likes is he likes best stuff and best execution for a certain situation. So when a situation presents itself, he's going to ask himself that question: who has the best stuff and who has the best execution for this moment right now? And I think that's how he's ultimately going to determine who pitches the 9th inning. And it could be one guy, one game, and then it could be a completely different guy the next game as well. So obviously a pretty big fallout with Jason Foley not making the roster. And then as for Andrew Chafin, that's a really fascinating situation because he came into spring training on a minor league contract, and now he's not making the opening day roster. He's going to report to AAA Toledo. This is an 11-year MLB veteran, and it's interesting how it worked out because he could have opted out of his contract with the Tigers. Basically, everybody who signs a minor league contract, if you have more than 6 years of MLB service time and you finish the previous season on a major league roster, then you're allowed 3 opt-out dates. They're uniform across the board. Everyone gets them as long as you meet those requirements. He could have opted out March 22nd, which would have then forced the Tigers to decide over the next 48 hours whether to add him to the 40-man roster or let him become a free agent. But Chafin, who thought he was going to make the team, didn't exercise that opt-out. Now, the final 2 opt-out dates, May 1st and June 1st. So he could be down in Toledo theoretically until like May 1st. The Tigers don't have to make a decision on him until then. So it kind of is a weird spot where he may have shot himself in the foot a little bit by not exercising that opt-out, because if he would have, it would have put him in a position of power and it would have forced the Tigers to make a decision. Instead, the Tigers could just make the easy decision of sending him down because, let's be honest, Andrew Chafin wasn't very good in spring training. He got better as camp went along, but at the same time, the one thing that really stood out to me was the velocity. The velocity was not where it needed to be. His sinker was averaging just 88.9 miles an hour, down from 91.7 miles an hour last year. I think he still needs to build his workload and build his endurance. And as a result of Chafin not making the team, Brant Herter is making the team. And I'll be interested to see how the Tigers use him, but it seems like they want to stretch him out and they want to have him be more of a long reliever guy, pretty much like what he did last year after making his MLB debut in early August. He was really good for the Tigers down the stretch, covered 45 1/3 innings in 10 games, posted a 2.58 ERA. Expect a similar role for Brant Herter in 2025, but maybe he could be a Swiss Army knife where he's kind of like, Tyler Holton 2.0, pitching 3 innings sometimes and also maybe pitching 1 inning, but it sure seems like the Tigers want to stretch him out. But, we'll see how all that kind of stuff goes. Mark, I need to get your thoughts on that though. Jason Foley to AAA Toledo, Andrew Chafin to AAA Toledo, Brendan Hanafy on the big league roster, Brant Herter on the big league roster. What do you think about those roster moves?
I think Foley was a much easier decision than people think. And you and I have been talking quite a bit past couple weeks. I've brought this up multiple times and, I know you were a little more surprised than I was, but at the end of the day, Jason Foley has not thrown like Jason Foley since May of 2024. He was throwing 98-100 in April last year, and his velocity has slowly diminished almost by the month since last year. The effectiveness also diminishing. The command, especially arm side, diminishing. So at the same time, let's be really blunt about it. Kudos to Scott Harris, AJ Hinch, Chris Fetter. They just basically polished enough relief arms that there are numerous right-handed relievers on this roster that are better than Jason Foley. Now, we could argue the John Brebbia discussion that they didn't really need him, but I think they really like him, and we're going to find out, the line is going to be very fine for people to not perform. Okay. So I'm not surprised by Foley. Gives him a chance to go down and work on things. Maybe it's mechanical. Maybe it's an injury that we don't know about, but I'm sure we'll see Jason Foley unless he's hurt. Okay. As far as Andrew Chafin, I think I've tweeted this a few times. Look, based on the contract and having a minor league deal, you had to decide right now if you wanted to keep him or not, because you can't send him down. You can only bring him up. So saying to Andrew Chafin, look, dude, your velocity's down 2.5 miles an hour. This is a long season. You're getting paid anyway. You're a big part of what we're going to do, but you got to go down and build up. I mean, granted, he struck out 5 of the last 6 hitters he faced in spring training, but it just goes to show you, they don't pay any attention to that stuff. It's how will your stuff play in a major league game? Spring training is not a major league game.
All right, enough about the roster moves. Let's take a break. When we come back, we are going to make some predictions about the Tigers in the 2025 season. All right, we're back. Let's turn the table to some season preview topics. Freep.com, 5 critical questions about the Tigers with Evan Petzold, Jeff Seidel, Ryan Ford, Sean Windsor, and Carlos Monarez, and now Mark Gorash. I'm going to share my answer to each question, and then Mark, I'm going to turn it over to you. First question, how many wins for the Tigers? I said 84, and here's what I wrote. Freep.com. Remember when the Tigers went on a 31-11 run to the postseason in 2024? That winning percentage from August 11th to September 27th equals a 120-win pace across a full season. But no MLB team has ever won more than 116 games. Before that magical 42-game stretch, the Tigers had a 55-63 record, on pace for just 75 wins. The Tigers finished with 86 wins in 2024, but they likely won't reach that mark in 2025. Another thing, it's hard to bank on the pitching staff finishing among MLB's top 5 teams in ERA again, which puts even more pressure on a below-average offense that saw minimal upgrades this offseason. I said 84 wins. Mark, how many wins do you have for the Tigers in 2025?
I'm going to shock and amaze you and go with the high end of 88 wins. I think they'll struggle to be 500 first 50 games where Parker Meadows is not there. After game 54, when he supposedly will return, I see a lot better things for them, and that's kind of how I base my thinking. Straw that stirs the drink, Parker Meadows.
Question number 2. Will the Tigers win the AL Central or make the postseason again? I said no to both of those, and here's what I said in Freep.com. And here's what I wrote in Freep.com. The Tigers haven't won the AL Central since 2014, and that drought won't likely end in 2025 as the Kansas City Royals, led by superstar Bobby Witt Jr. and Cy Young finalist Seth Lugo, are poised to take the crown. Since the expansion to 12 playoff teams in 2022, only once has the AL Central sent multiple teams to the postseason, with 3 teams advancing in 2024. It's hard to see that happening again in 2025, so the Tigers probably need to win the division or finish a close second to secure one of the 6 AL spots. Still, the AL Central has been unpredictable, so surprises can happen. Just see the 2024 Tigers. So I said no, the Tigers will not make the AL Central or advance to the postseason again. Mark, what's your answer?
I think they're the wild card team. I think the Twins win the division. I think the Tigers make the playoffs.
Question number 3. Will Tarek Skubal repeat as the AL Cy Young winner? I said yes, and here's what I wrote in Freep.com. Since 2000, only 5 pitchers have won back-to-back Cy Young awards. Randy Johnson, Tim Lincecum, Clayton Kershaw, Max Scherzer, and Jacob deGrom. But those were all NL pitchers. An AL pitcher hasn't claimed consecutive awards since Pedro Martinez in 1999 2000. Right now, Skubal is the best starting pitcher in baseball. Sorry, Paul Skeens and Chris Sale, with a high-velocity fastball, a swing-and-miss changeup, and a fearless attack plan. He bullies right-handed hitters inside with four-seamers and sinkers. Then he finishes them away with changeups and sliders. If Skubal stays healthy and maintains command, he should win the Cy Young again in 2025, even if it's not unanimous this time. So I said yes, Tarik Skubal will repeat as the AL Cy Young winner. Mark, what do you think?
It's hard for me to think just from a logic standpoint that Tarik Skubal can repeat no matter how great he is. And his level of greatness is pretty epic right now. I'm going to still say yes. Just understand there's some great pitchers in the American League this year. Garrett Crochet being one on Boston, Gilbert on Seattle. There's quite a few really, really talented starting pitchers. So if he is able to win a back-to-back Cy Young this year, it's going to really be some heavy lifting.
Question number 4. Which young Tiger will take the biggest step forward? I said Riley Green. Here's what I wrote in Freep.com. Let's not forget Green is only 24 years old. He is the third youngest player on the opening day roster, older than only 22-year-old Jackson Jobe and 23-year-old Colt Keith. The former number 5 overall pick made the All-Star game for the first time in 2024, but all signs point to him ascending to MVP caliber performance in 2025. His .827 OPS in 2024 ranked 5th among AL players aged 25 or younger, trailing only Juan Soto, Bobby Witt Jr., Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and Gunnar Henderson. Those 4 players received MVP votes in 2024, and Green will receive MVP votes in 2025. That's another big step forward. So my pick for young Tiger to take the biggest step forward is Riley Green, but other writers went with Dylan Dingler, Colt Keith, Jackson Jobe. Mark, what do you think? Which young Tiger will take the biggest step forward in 2025?
First of all, I'm going to call bogus on that choice. He had a 137 WRC plus last year.
He's 24. He can still take another step. If he wins MVP, that's another big step.
Here's what I got to say about that, Petzold. Boo. Boo on that.
All right, what do you got?
I got Casey Mize. I have Casey Mize. If you watch Casey Mize last night, you saw everything you love and everything you hate. And, in short order, he was just insanely dominant for the first 8 hitters he faced, as good as he's ever looked as a Tiger. He then proceeds to get ahead in the count on the 9th hitter, 1 and 2, walks him, then proceeds to get ahead of a pretty light hitting center fielder in the next hitter, 1 and 2, gives up a hit, then gives up a double. That's everything that makes you want to choke Casey Mize right there. That is Casey Mize for 5 years in a nutshell. What I think happens is with this newfound level of dominance in his split and the sliders are really coming along lately, I think he finally crosses the threshold of consistency and becomes really, really good. So my answer is Casey Mize.
To be fair, Casey Mize is 27 going on 28, and the question was young Tiger, but we're going to make an exception for you, Mark. I think that's a perfect answer because this guy really could be an X factor for the Tigers. Question number 5, who is the most important Tiger this season other than Tarik Skubal? We've talked about this before on the show. Of course, I said Parker Meadows. I'm going to give my reasoning once again, this time in Freep.com. There's no timetable for Meadows to return from a right upper arm nerve issue, but he won't play in MLB games until late May at the earliest. That's a huge loss for the Tigers because Meadows is their most important position player as the leadoff hitter against right-handed pitchers and the everyday center fielder. He also has all-star potential if he continues to hit like he did at the end of last season when a swing change helped him hit .299 with an .857 OPS over his final 50 games. In 2024, the Tigers were 49-26 when Meadows started and 33-11 when he recorded a hit. No one was more critical to the Tigers' postseason run in 2024, which highlights Meadows' value in 2025. So I went with Parker Meadows, but Mark, for you, who is the most important Tiger this season, not named Tarik Skubal, and I'll throw a wrinkle into it, not named Parker Meadows either. I'm curious who else you think is really important to this team.
Well, real simple. If everybody was healthy, I think Parker Meadows is the absolute answer to this question. But considering everybody is not healthy, the answer to me is none other than Riley Green. If Riley Green does not put this team on his back while they tread water and figure out how to get, 9 guys in the lineup that are major league caliber, they're dead. I don't care how well they pitch. If you don't score any runs, you can't win baseball games. So the one guy that can really amp their scoring that they can rely on to be a run producer is Riley Green. And Kerry Carpenter, you better start hitting the ball out of the ballpark here soon, son, because it's been a while. But Riley Green would be that for me right now based upon where the Tigers lineup is.
You mentioned Kerry Carpenter needing to get the ball out of the ballpark. So does Colt Keith. I'm curious, generally speaking, and as we wrap up, I just want to understand, what is your panic meter, if you will? A lot of injuries, right? Spencer Torkelson is now on this team. He was not supposed to be on this team. Ryan Kreidler is on this team. He was not supposed to be on this team. And when you look at what the Tigers might roll out there against Blake Snell, one of the best pitchers in baseball, you're looking at a lineup that's going to be Gleyber Torres, Andy Ibanez, Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson, Colt Keith, Javier Baez, Manuel Margot, Jake Rogers, Ryan Kreidler. Like, Kerry Carpenter is going to be on the bench. Trey Sweeney is going to be on the bench. Zach McKinstry is going to be on the bench. Dylan Dingler is going to be on the bench. But that starting group, Andy Ibanez, Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson, Gleyber Torres, Javi Baez, Colt Keith, Manuel Margot, Jake Rogers, Ryan Kreidler. Like, you see that lineup. What are your thoughts on where things are at right now? And are you like slamming the panic button, or are you like cautiously putting your finger on it, maybe getting ready to press it?
I'm not a panic kind of guy, especially when AJ Hinch is my manager. You and I were having a conversation a couple of days ago, and we were talking about pitching chaos, and we laughed and said, it's now going to be center field chaos. And then you wrote a piece about it. And that's essentially, you hope the kind of aura of the team, which became very special after the first week of August last year, that's not a feeling that's easy to recapture. But starting off the season, having to duplicate that essentially is where they're at. They have 5 terrible hitters in their lineup. I think I alluded to it earlier. So somebody's going to have to surprise you. Somebody plays way better than they normally should in April every year. And somebody's going to have to step up this year and do things that were totally unexpected. So do I have a panic meter? Yeah. If they were 12-23, I would be panicking then. But I just think they're a lot more mature. They understand what they need to do, what the goal is, and how to do it. And I'll be fascinated to see if they can raise the level of their game and do that.
All right, everyone. That's all we have for this bonus episode of the Days of Roar podcast. Opening day is Thursday, March 27th against the Los Angeles Dodgers. Thanks to our producer, Robin Chan, for putting in the extra work to edit and publish this episode. Check back for our regular hour-long episodes, which drop every Monday. And until then, go in peace.